God, may my words be your words, and may the words of my lips and the meditations of all our hearts be acceptable in your sight, O God, our hope and Redeemer. Amen. So this weekend, I went to my parents' house in Urbana, which is not necessarily all that unusual. Frankly, after the last 2 weeks, I needed a few days away. And any trip that I take to my parents has to include time with my nephew, Jack David Johnson. Now, some of you have probably seen pictures of him on Facebook. There was an adorable one from last week where he decided to make his grandfather his couch. He's 4.5 years old, and for the most part, he can do no wrong in his uncle's eyes. But he's also impulsive, and he's right at the age where, having already kind of poked at the soft boundaries of his parents, he's now pushing harder boundaries. On Saturday morning, he was shopping with his mom, my sister, and with my mom, or his mom. At one moment, he was minding pretty well, and the next moment, he was charging down an aisle of the store and out of sight. My mom screamed after him. His mother ran after him and dragged him out of the store in not a very good mood. Even though he was supposed to lose his sleepover that night, he somehow earned it back, i.e., my sister and brother-in-law needed a little bit of a break. Before his parents left, he had disobeyed both grandparents and both parents. So I was elected to watch him as he played outside. Jack, you can run around, but you can't go into the street. Jack lets his scooter go, and the scooter rolls into the street. To which he shouts at me, "I didn't go into the street." This went on for less than 5 minutes, and the scooter and or Jack were in the street 3 or 4 times. I gave him one more chance. And yes, into the street the scooter went. We went to get the scooter. And I told him to go inside. And he ran away. Once I got up to him, grabbed his arm, and took him inside, he looked at me square in the eyes, as much as he can at his height, and said, "I'm going to move to Toledo because I don't love you." Love is an interesting concept. We might think we know what love is, but we usually can't describe love without referencing someone else. I can tell you what love is, but only in ways that I have experienced love and in the ways that I have tried to love others. Trust me, I was pretty mad at Jack on Saturday, but despite that, I obviously still love him. And I know he still loves me. This morning, he gave me a big hug, and we agreed that we both were pretty grumpy yesterday. The Bible consistently attests to 4 kinds of love, at least 4. Love of God, love of others, love of ourselves, and God, who is love. According to Jesus, the first and greatest commandment is to love God. Loving God, on the face of it at least, isn't really all that hard, because we know that there's a lot to love. There are many thoughts and theories about how we can and should love God, yet oftentimes our theologies, our traditions, our doctrines, our rituals hinge on how we love God. How many of us have heard or been told that the ways in which we worship or live our lives doesn't show our love of God? The church has taught us that there are ways to love God unique only to God. Often loving God is tied up, at least in the church, about how we love our neighbors and how we love ourselves. Again, according to Jesus, the second commandment is to love our neighbors as ourselves. We all have the capacity for that kind of love. Loving our neighbors should, in fact, be one of the easiest actions that we have. But we usually think of love as a noun, rather than a verb, rather than an action. Love is simple, yet we confuse what love really is. I imagine that we've all experienced being loved so much that it hurts. People say that they love us so much that they want to save us from being our authentic selves. People say that they have to hurt us or do awful things because they love us. People say that they love us, so then they have to change us. People say that they love us so much that in loving us, they have to deny who God created us to be. And so we learn many lessons about loving others. Unfortunately, we then love others in a similar way to the ways we were taught. Cycles of abuse are this way. Perversions of love are continued in this way. Yet how we love our neighbors is tied up in how we love God. George Fox, the lead founder of the Quakers, said, "There is that of God within each one of us." How we love our neighbors reflects how we love God. When we weaponize love for our own gain or for collective gain, we weaponize love against God. When we create or sustain cycles of abuse and call them love, we make and we include God in those cycles. We must really and authentically love neighbors, because in loving our neighbors, we are loving God. Give me 1 second. If we are to love our neighbors as ourselves, then we also have to love ourselves. A key part of loving others is being able to love ourselves. When we struggle to find the good parts of ourselves, it is hard to find the good parts in others. Social media, TV, magazines, politics, any number of influences tell us that there is always something wrong about us. We need to lose weight. We need to exercise more. We need to spend more time outside. We need to work harder. We need to work less. We need to follow the best 10 steps to success, or the 7 best steps, or the 12 best steps. We need to reduce stress in our lives. Only then can we possibly love ourselves. This is what we are told by influence and influencers. When we try to love when we try to love ourselves, people then call us prideful or conceited. The church has often told us that we have to deny ourselves. The church has often told us that we need to love ourselves less in order to love God. Yet God saw us in the infancy of our humanity, and knowing everything that would happen, still called us good, still called us lovable. God sees us every day, and God continues to call us good. We need to see ourselves as God sees us. And if we can't see ourselves as God sees us, then at the very least we need to see ourselves as our dogs and cats see us. When we see ourselves authentically and love ourselves fully, we can love others the best. When we love ourselves authentically and fully, we can fully love God. Now, what I'm calling the fourth and final of these 4 types of love that I find in the Bible, I call it God, because God is love. God is that force of love, and love itself, which binds all of our loves in common. We love God so that we can love others and love ourselves. We love others so that we can love ourselves and love God. We love ourselves so that we can love others and love God. God is the one. God is the force that binds all these loves together and makes it possible that we can love God, others, and ourselves. So church, will you pray with me? God, we know our calling is to love. Our hearts yearn for a just world, a peace-filled world, a safe and generous and just world, a loving world. We know that building a just society starts with us, and justice can only exist when we love. There's enough pain and heartbreak to go around. Yet even as we grieve or fight back tears of anger and frustration, there is urgent work to do. We are in a state of emergency. And the question of who we will be as a people and as a nation that shapes the world is a critical one. Which levers we pull at the polls matter. The conversations we have with our neighbors matter. And how we love our neighbors matters. What we teach and how we love our children matters. How we worship and how we love those in communities matters. How we read and interpret our holy texts matters. How we love you, God, how we love others, and how we love ourselves matters.